This is bad. I got this recently, the new Jurassic Park. It's not even the new Jurassic Park film, it's the original Jurassic Park film. The new release, newly remastered with Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. And I have concerns with it. Now, while the release itself is actually really good, the transfer looks really good, the audio is fantastic, the special features, look at that, there's like a whole bunch of special features. You get a BD100 because in an economy now where it's really hard to get BD100s, surprisingly, apparently it's hard to do that right now. This is something that exists, and it's a big turning point for me when it comes to 4K UHDs. Now, again, I have to praise this because this is a really solid release for this film, outside of the factor of, again, my other gripe, no Blu-ray disc, no insurance factor. What if the disc gets scratched? Because, you know, we all know how finicky 4K discs are. You get one scratch in that thing and it's basically worthless. And these things aren't cheap. This was like $35. I got it on a 30% off sale, because obviously I did, but still, $35 for a single disc release. Now, of course, I'm going to probably have some people immediately saying, what do you mean, Julian? This is a terrific release. It's the best release of the film. It's the best it's ever looked. It's far superior than the previous 4K that exists. And whilst that is accurate, at least to everyone else I've heard talk about it, because I don't have the previous 4K, I only have the previous Blu-ray, I got it because I wanted it in UHD. I actually had deliberately waited for this release to come out because I wanted it in 4K in UHD, but the previous release had a HDR10 grading, and most people were like, it could be better. And I'm like, how could it be better? A new encoding. What does that say about films when you get a 4K, which is already the most expensive format currently available, at least in terms of like regular retail stuff? You know, if you don't include steelbooks and you don't include like boutiques and premiums and stuff, for the regular go-to consumer, this is the most expensive format, and it both is lacking a Blu-ray disc and also is an upgrade from a previous 4K that came out several years ago. It's not a bad thing that this exists. It's just a turning point. And I note that given that recently in Australia we had Shout Factory had launched, and the first two films they released was Labyrinth on 4K and The Dark Crystal, both of which I have previous 4Ks of. And I love it, great, 10 out of 10, they got new releases, that's great. I still have not watched my release of Dark Crystal because, I don't know, sometimes you just buy a film and you just don't watch it. But Labyrinth I have seen. It's like the old Studio Canal 4K, and I was happy with it. I haven't seen it since I've gotten like an OLED TV and everything, so I don't know if I really should compare it to the new release, but I've heard that the new one looks better because it has a Dolby Vision encode, also new special features and whatever. But I'm like, we're upgrading 4K to 4K now. And that's gotten concerning to me. Like, there's already the boutique releases. You could get the Criterion 4K of one film, and then Arrow Video will have a different 4K of it, because if you've got different countries, you're going to have different licensing. Australia will have a different 4K. I know that Malcolm X recently had, like, its 4K from Australia from Imprint, which I heard was the best version, in contrast to both, like, the UK release and the Criterion release, because it had a better encoding by like fidelity and motion they had applied to the UHD for the imprint release. Apparently, again, looks incredible in contrast to the previous two. I didn't get the previous two because I would have had to import them, and it was already really expensive, $105 retail price for the imprint one. And it's gotten to a degree where I've kind of realized where, especially in the past year, that 4Ks are even having to outdo previous 4Ks, just as a basic concept of them existing. It's really kind of weird to think about. Like, again, they've already stripped so much from a 4K. The 4K now, you can get 4Ks with no special features. How crazy is that? For what is meant to be a really large, usually 66GB towards 100GB disc, and they will just give you no special features. At least this has special features. I'm going to give a huge props for that. And again, this isn't a bad release. You know, you can kind of see the disc in there. It's very black. This is a good 4K. It looks incredible. It sounds incredible. It is definitely an upgrade over my previous release. And at least the artwork, they didn't really fuck with that either. They just stuck with the original and they just slapped on a classification sticker, because Australia loves their classification stickers. We don't. We hate them. They're obnoxious. And again, you get a BD100. That's good. But imagine being the person who's been collecting this film for years. You've gone from a Laserdisc to a VHS to a DVD to a Blu-ray to a 4K. Finally, I have it on 4K. I never need to buy this film again unless I want a special edition steelbook or some kind of boutique release. And then cut to like almost 10 years later, maybe less than 10 years later, and there's a new 4K out. And the new 4K emphasizes, as it says on the top banner, newly remastered, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. And that's kind of crazy to think about in a way, like that we now have encoding as like the precedence of what a 4K can give you. The stronger encode, the stronger the details, the better the bitrate, the Dolby Vision including for better blacks and better brightness and better colors, and again Dolby Atmos for better audio mixing. I don't think there's several other audio options. I mean, most of it is in Dolby Atmos anyway, but this actually also has a HDR10 encode because all 4K discs naturally have a HDR10 encode. It just doesn't have HDR10 plus. Maybe they should do another release. Do another release but have HDR10 plus. Then we'll have the definitive version. We won't. It's just kind of crazy to look at this and think, yeah, the rest of it's in just 5.1 surround sound. This is the direction we're going in now, where 4K is already the most expensive format, at least in Australia. Most 4Ks brand new are like $40. They're usually for the newest films. For older films that got new restorations, whether it be imports from Studio Canal or whatever, all presented by AID. I think it's all interactive distribution. AID do our releases in Australia now, which they've actually been doing a pretty good job. Except for steelbooks. The steelbooks are still mighty expensive. I don't really know if that's their fault, though, or just because they're expensive. Like, just a standard 4K steelbook will be like $70, and it's like, why? Here in America, double that price. Actually, maybe times 1.5. If you're in the UK, double it. It's fucked. That's just our regular retail prices for steelbooks, and it's nuts. And most of the time, we will only get a film on a 4K steelbook, and then just not get a film at all. Jurassic Park initially didn't even get a standard release. We only just got them like 2 months ago, and they sold out like fucking hotcakes. And everyone nutso a couple months ago for when the steelbooks came out, because they had the steelbook packs. The first 3 films is a trilogy, 4K only, and the Jurassic World trilogy, 4K only. I didn't bother with any of those because I'm like, I don't want to spend like $120 on these films. I'm okay, and I was happy to not because I didn't really care for the artwork either. And lo and behold, I spent $24 several months later on just the first film because I'm like, I'm happy with the Blu-rays for the other films. 4K as a format has really been evolving in a very strange way. Like, it was advertised, the pinnacle of, how you can watch a movie. You get HDR grading, you get so many gigabytes on a disc that you can encode the shit out of it. There's even room for special features. Crazy, imagine that. Sometimes. And you can put a 3 to 4 hour long film on one disc with an HDR grade. Sometimes they have to still split it in 2. It's nuts that can still happen. The amount of issues that I've seen pop up with 4Ks, it's kind of also been astounding in its own right. You have the fact that, again, the discs, you scratch it once, it's basically useless now. You can't really watch it again. Good luck, unless you have multiple players, which some people don't, which is reasonable. I have 2, just because one of them is an all-region player. But both of them are UHDs. One's a Panasonic, one's a Sony. And I only use the Sony one for, like, Region A stuff, or the occasional 4K that happens to stutter on the other player, because sometimes the Panasonic isn't perfect. It happens. But the Panasonic has Dolby Vision and much better audio, where the Sony does not. So, it gives and takes. I know the Sony has Dolby Vision accessible, but the function does not work. And they've never updated the player to let it work. Isn't that great? I love software. Software is the best. So, it's annoying where you'll have discs that will scratch and be shitty. You'll have the recent AI upscaling that they've done on a lot of James Cameron films, disc replacement programs, because you'll have so many discs just being faulty out the gate, whether they've just had poor quality control from the actual film pressing itself, like there's poor color grading, or just audio options are wrong, or something like that. All the discs are just broken from the get-go. You put it in and it's all scratched up and it doesn't work. And I know that the HD DVD at least had a better function where, like, the data was, like, stored higher up in the disc, so even if you scratched it, it wouldn't damage it at all, you know, like it had so much more protective coating, but again, it was still a HD DVD, so it's got to have different issues, whereas that was a good function of it. Somehow the Blu-ray just decided to just not incorporate that as well. They were just like, no, we're going to have our data layer be like very, very close to the surface, so much so that a fingerprint will completely fuck up your movie. And if you've got a really long movie, you're going to get like 2 hours into a 3-hour film and it'll just stutter and not work. And look at that, we don't sell Blu-ray discs with them anymore, so you're basically fucked. So have fun with that. Some of the discs won't even show physical wear and will just stop working for no reason. And I don't know why. It just happens sometimes. Especially as someone who has to import discs. I had Bringo Back. I got the A24 release because that was the only release available at the time. We've now got a standard Blu-ray in Australia, but, you know, too late. And we got to like the last 5 minutes of that movie during a really tense sequence, and the whole disc started stuttering to the point that I had to take that disc, put it into the top player, finish the movie, and then go back onto the other player and see if it was actually the player that was the problem or if it was the disc that was the problem. And to my knowledge, currently, still don't know. I was able to play it fine, maybe because the audio was pumped up just a bit more. I don't know. Maybe it was a Dolby Vision thing because the other player didn't have Dolby Vision. I don't know. There are discs from Blue Underground where you just can't watch them on players with Dolby Vision encoding on. You have to turn that off because half the time you'll get ghosting, which is like, how is that a thing? You know, there was so many issues with these things. Like there was so many years of people criticizing Blu-rays for like changing the color of films because the people, you know, making the films or usually putting them onto a Blu-ray would remaster them properly and be like, oh, this is actually the original color timing from like the original negative, which is very different to what you've seen for the past 20 to 30 years, maybe longer, because you've been looking for a different print that isn't the original print. And we get it, you grew up with that, and that's what you associate the film with, but unfortunately, you've been lied to your whole entire lives. It's a remarkable thing that happens now. Now, the UHD disc is still good, you know. Again, there are so many benefits from a technical level, and just having that extra room to breathe can make the films really shine. Again, it's always good to have the extra HDR grade or the Dolby Vision grade. It can look incredible. There are some 4Ks I have that just don't have either. Just standard dynamic range. It's not great. And it gets to a point where it makes me a little concerned, you know, because when we're already in a current disc economy where it's getting harder to produce discs, because most of them are coming out of Mexico, which, say what you will about Mexico, if all the discs are coming from one place, that could be a problem. Like, we don't produce discs in Australia anymore, which sucks. So we got to get them from halfway across the planet, which is nuts. And you could have so many issues there, and you won't have any idea about it until they arrive, and there could be a whole entire batch that are just worthless discs. And then maybe they arrive scratched, maybe there's like a quality control error that you haven't picked up on until it gets released, and then you've got to recall all of them, or you just got to be like, just send us an email that you've got a faulty disc, and we'll give you a replacement. It could come in maybe 2 weeks, or it could come in about 3 years. Really depends on the company. I know you could pin Vinegar Syndrome against Arrow Video any day of the week for who does disc replacements better. Obviously, Vinegar Syndrome, they're incredible with their disc replacement programs. They're so fucking on the ball with that kind of stuff. It always amuses me when you'll have a company announce a release date for a movie that comes out on 4K in like a couple weeks or a couple months, and then within like a week or two of it meant to be coming out, like hitting the market, they realize, oh, there's an error on this disc. We've only just discovered it like 2 days from shipping it out to every single country on the planet. We're going to have to pause the whole entire thing and redo this whole thing. And people get a little annoyed. Of course they do. A lot of people are impatient. A lot of people really want these films on 4K immediately. But then you have so many people also giving them praise. Like, hey, you figured it out. You realized there was an issue. You're addressing it before it becomes a problem for me. That's good. You do you, as long as I get my disc and it comes in all right and it's all perfect. Very nice. Sometimes you'll get a film like, I believe it was The Wiz, which had some issues from Criterion, and they had to recall some discs and stop producing it entirely because there was an audio issue, but then they found like an extra audio track whilst they were repairing the original audio issue, so now they've re-released it with a new, like, 2 more audio tracks, which is nuts. You can just do that. And that's kind of what we get with something like Jurassic Park, where you'll get a brand new encoding that gives you Dolby Vision, because Dolby Vision didn't really exist when the HDR initially came out. And of course, it's a very hot off the press kind of movie. You want that in HDR. You want that film in 4K as quickly as possible. A lot of people do, which is very reasonable. And yeah, sure, people were very happy that there's now a brand new UHD that includes, this whole thing. And to be fair, it's not like this happened last year that they released the standard 4K and now there's this new one a year later. At least there's some dissidence. It's not like you'll get a film that's being released on Blu-ray and then 6 months to a year later it gets a 4K. We've got a brand new 4K restoration of this film, but we're going to wait about 12 months before we do the UHD because we want to make sure it sells. Yeah, that's so many quirks. So then you get a bunch of people who have a shit ton of Blu-ray discs that they just don't know what to do with. Like, if you have the original Jurassic Park 4K and it's not in a set, what do you do with that? I have the Ultimate Trilogy Collection set, and it's a 6-disc slot. And the benefit of that is that you got, 2 slots per film, but the extra films are the digital copies, and the digital copies on discs, back when that used to be a thing. It's a pretty old release. Like, one of the first ever Blu-ray releases for the whole thing. And the benefit there is that I've taken out every single one of those, digital code discs and replaced it with the Jurassic World films, because unfortunately my dad really likes the Jurassic World films. So I've put every single Jurassic World film into that set to save up shelf space. Easy peasy. And that's not bad. And to be fair, I've just been getting standard Blu-rays for all these films. I have not gone the single 4K for any of the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World films until now. So now I have a completely different pack and a completely different version of Jurassic Park. And it's the question of, are all the same special features on both of the discs, or do I still have to keep that extra Jurassic Park disc just handy somewhere close by? Or do I keep the Jurassic Park 4K disc in its case and put that on the shelf and just ignore the other set? I don't even know where that set is. I don't. It's somewhere over there, because it's in box sets. I have so many... Oh, there it is. I found it. It's next to Indiana Jones. Which is another issue on its own right, because that has a 5th film now, and that's a 4-film set. Crazy. So I think realistically with Jurassic Park, I will benefit from just swapping the discs around. I did the same thing for Die Hard as well, when they released Die Hard 1 on 4K. Is it crazy that they haven't released any other Die Hard films on 4K? That feels weird. I feel like they would have done Die Hard 2 and Die Hard with a Vengeance by now. Even just all the first 4 films. Preferably not the 5th one, but, But I had bought a 5-film set, and I swapped out I think I swapped out the 5th film, because I'm never going to watch that, so who cares. Put that on the 4K case, put the 4K disc in the first slot, so you get the 4K of Die Hard, the Blu-ray of Die Hard, and then the Blu-rays of the rest of them. Because honestly, I don't think, even my dad and my brother, who have both watched the 5th movie, have never rewatched it. I don't think they ever will rewatch it. They hardly watch any of the sequels. They do like Die Hard with a Vengeance, because who doesn't? I like all 4 of them. I'm just pretty easy that way. That's why I say all four of them. That's it. There's just 4. I don't need whatever the first film is. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm content with life. And this also comes to the equation. I was talking to Jared Garn about this. He's a film historian, does a bunch of commentaries, produces a lot of films on Blu-rays and whatnot. Overall standout guy. And great in the field of physical media. I actually bought my imprint release of Malcolm X from him. I didn't know that until a couple of days ago, which is really funny to me. But we were talking about imprint in general. We all love talking about imprint, whether it be shitting on them or not shitting on them, but it kind of all goes in tandem. We were talking about their latest Halloween batch, the Halloween set that is here with the Jack-O-Lantern. It's the 5-film set, 5 steelbooks, the original 5 films before, obviously, Miramax bought it, whatever, and did their own films. And as much as we were praising the element of at least every film gets its own original artwork, that's nice. In this day and age, do we really need more versions of the Halloween films? And I have heard that there's at least a bit of a benefit with these new releases, which don't come out till December, which is that's this month. So that's crazy. They're all like new encoding, so they've all got. I believe Dolby Vision is a brand new accessory to them, where they previously didn't have that. They're all HDR10, and that's curious on its own right because I do like the Halloween films. It's like my least favorite slasher series. That is the big named slasher series. I like 2 or 3 or 4 of the films that I will consistently watch, but the rest of them I'm like, I guess I'll just have them on 4K. So if I ever do plan to watch them, they're just there. Sure, why not? But now that, Imprint's $500, buy all 5 films, $100 a film basically, which is just insane to me because I've already spent way less than that to get the imported versions, to get the Scream Factory versions. And then there's the fact that Arrow Video, rumor has it, are going to also do a 4K version of maybe just the first Halloween film. And then you look at Halloween and you think, how many fucking versions of Halloween do we need on 4K? I had gone from the Umbrella Blu-ray, which was a pretty shitty Blu-ray. I had bought 2 4Ks of it. One of them was a US release, one of them was a UK release. I think the difference was one of them was a Steelbook, but it was like 2 different brands. And then they released the US Scream Factory version, and I got that. I think it might have been actually 2 UK versions, and then I got the US version, and I sold off my other 2 versions, because the other 2 versions also had different color gradings and stuff, and like different special features. So I'm like, well, I don't really need them because I have the Scream Factory version. So I've got the best one that's going to exist. Except that now it's not the best one that's going to exist because Imprint now have their version that's also going to exist, and then apparently Arrow is going to release their own version which is going to exist. I don't, again, know how much of confirmed it is with the Arrow version, but the fact that Arrow is also doing one with a brand new scan of the negative and all this kind of stuff, it's just like, how much more can you get out of the film? And the thing is, I know people will get that 4K, especially from Arrow, and they're gonna fucking cream themselves over it, because of course they will. You'll have Arrow probably using fidelity and motion, you'll have it with a Dolby Vision encode, it's going to have a 100GB disc, bitrate out of the fucking wazoo, and probably some new special features, which I don't know if people will really clamour about, but I don't know if licensing-wise they might be able to get everything from Scream Factory, because I definitely am sure that Imprint did not get everything that Scream Factory did for their special features. They have their own unique ones, sure, everyone does, but will there be an ultimate version where this one just happens to have all of them? Yes, actually, Germany. Turbine will probably release a brand new 4K, which will be the 4K from Arrow, with all the special features from every other company, because they can just do that. And they've done it before, and they'll do it again. And it's crazy that Turbine will just keep doing that, because they've done that for The Thing, and I have that version of The Thing, and it's incredible. But I still have the other versions. I still have Universal's 4K, I have Arrow Video's 4K transfer on a Blu-ray disc, I have the Scream Factory 2K restoration, I have the original, Universal disc as well. How many versions of this movie do you need? And that's just kind of where it becomes a pinnacle of, the 4Ks will just keep going down this avenue, and of course it's because they sell, they're only making Halloween on 4K because it sells. It sells really well because people love watching Halloween, and I guess they want a new experience where I'm like, I feel like we're gonna go backwards. We should just go back to the VHS, and you know what? They already have. Was it Vice Press already doing VHS copies of films now? Because apparently that's the hot stuff. Even though, again, they're not making new VHS players, VCRs, they're not making those anymore. You have to still buy an old one that's 40 years old to buy a VHS that is brand new, which is nuts. Oh, it's fucking crazy to think about that we've just kind of gone backwards like that. I feel like we should just go to watching films in 360p on iPhones that exist, that the first ever iPhones, or watch it on a Nokia, something, a phone that existed back in the early 2000s, on a brick phone. I don't know, if you can run Doom on a brick phone, I'm pretty sure you can. Why can't you watch Halloween? I don't know. As someone who loves buying movies a lot, clearly, I'm getting... Oh my god, I just realised I'm wearing the Thing t-shirt. That was unintentional. It's becoming annoying experiencing what 4K has to offer. Because for a long time, I was content with just a 4K restoration of a film on a Blu-ray disc. But then you get that extra HDR grade and everything, and you realize, shit, it really does look better. And of course, the thing is, you don't need the HDR grade or the Dolby Vision grade, but you put a 4K UHD, like a 4K scan remaster, onto a UHD disc, you're already going to get so much more space on it. The encode will be better. It'll just be a stronger bitrate. It'll go from 30 odd for your bitrate to 60 to 80, and it'll just be like, this looks incredible in contrast just because of the encoding. Just because that's a higher bitrate, it looks so much better, and it's kind of crazy that that's a thing. And it's more expensive because it's triple layer. It's more expensive to produce, of course. And that's just kind of how it's going. There's no real end in sight. I mean, people will say that physical media is dying out, but we're in a golden age of physical media. It's crazy that, like with the boom of boutiques and everything, and now they're doing UHDs as well, getting to upgrade their previous releases. Some people are just using 4K to upgrade from either to fix previous mistakes that they've released on previous Blu-rays and 4Ks. Take the Disney films where they re-released Snow White and like Cinderella and whatever to emphasize, hey, we've actually gone back to the original like print and we've done it better. It now looks like a cartoon. It doesn't look smoothed out and whatever. So there's always going to be benefits, but then there's going to be detractions. Again, the faulty discs, the AI upscaling, good God. The fact that they're so uber expensive, and then you'll only get a 4K disc and no Blu-ray, so you've got no insurance factor just in case. Maybe they have no special features, so it's a bare bones disc. It's really tiring to think about in a way. So that's why I don't really have a summation. It's just, we kind of get what we get. And of course, you buy what you buy, and whether it be from your own country or you import it, you know, you're always going to get something better from elsewhere, potentially. Usually you do. As someone who buys imprint releases, you can really get better releases elsewhere. Sometimes even locally from other companies. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts about this idea of stronger encoding, that we're now getting brand new versions of older 4K discs just from either, not just from like different boutique labels again, from Criterion to Arrow to Imprint to Second Sight to whomever, but the fact that we're getting that mixed with standard films like, I say standard, but like, you know, a more commercial release like Jurassic Park now having two different 4Ks, and you could get the 4K with the HDR10 grading and then have someone say, oh, you should have gotten the one with the Dolby Vision grading, it looks a lot better. And then you've got to have the tech that supplies it, so you've got to make sure your TV can actually run it, that your fucking player can run it, that your cables are good enough to actually run it so you're getting the best version of possible. Things are not as simple as they were 20 years ago. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys next time.